All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. This is episode 116 of the We Are One, You Are Two PlayStation podcast. I'm your host for all 116 episodes, Rob Fanzo. Now, normally this is where I jump in and say I'm joined today by my co-host, Matt, but I booted him this week. I decided he needed a break. He's currently moving somewhere. So instead, I brought in a pinch hitter, a man you may or may not know on the internet, but I'll introduce him anyway. The one and only Adam, and I believe you wanted to add to that moniker as well.
Yeah, because I suppose some people will know me as Dukane the Wizard from my time doing Skyrim VR, which is probably where my YouTubing sort of career, which feels weird to call it that, but that's probably where that started. But most people now probably know me as Adam from podcasts, reviews, my talks about university work. So we'll just go with Adam because it's normal, and I'll stick with that.
That works. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. It's always a pleasure to hear from you.
Now, Adam, Matt and I usually like to run through what we've been playing, and I know you and I just talked about this a little bit off air, that you've been a little bit busy, but do you care to share what have you been playing recently in terms of games that you've had time for?
Games I've had time for has been a bit of Rec Room here and there, which I'm sure listeners will know. If you don't, then you should. But go and play, or at least see what Rec Room is, which is basically a social VR game where you play little avatars and you interact with people and things and material people have made at home. I find that quite nice because a bit like playing a game by Media Molecule or something, all the content is made by people. So a lot of that is, some of it's really good game design. So it's fun to walk around like models people have made in VR, because it's probably one of the only creation tools which in some way is like, I don't know, I'm being trained in how to use Unity, and arguably that takes a lot of time and effort. But you can go into Rec Room and whip up a boat in like 10 minutes, and I find that quite envious, really, because it's like, this looks arguably better than what I do at university, and people have spent a great deal of time making really good games. I was playing Quidditch in there. Someone made like an actual Quidditch match. They coded it all. They used all these little sort of drag and drop assets that are there, and you can just play Quidditch. And I did that for like an hour and was like, nope, this is great. Like, this isn't even part of like the full game, and it's just here for me to enjoy. That's been something. And then, oh, was it Spyro? It's Spyro. So I'm looking to someone to my left. But we've been playing a bit of Spyro because they remade that, and I've been putting it off for ages. And I was like, we should get it. And we did. And Borderlands, what am I talking about? I got Borderlands 2 in VR. Oh. That's what I'll be doing a video on soon, because it's been catching my eye for like years, really. The actual game itself, I never even really played Borderlands when it started. So
I was going to ask you
about in VR. That. Yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna say, so you haven't played it before, so this will be Borderlands as a whole is a new experience for you, as well as you're gonna be doing it in VR.
Very much so. It's a little bit of it takes a bit of getting used to, because it's a bit like, I can imagine someone who plays Skyrim for the first time in VR. Like, it's bad enough when you can go third person for fun and run around and go, oh, I can see over the hill, and I get a general gist of things quite early on with like a really nice HUD. But when you're in VR, suddenly all of like the HUD and the menus feels really hard to get to, because you have to find buttons. So it was quite a jump in the deep end. The tutorial needs a bit of work for VR. I feel like that could be for the VR version of Skyrim. There's a different tutorial that they added at some point, and when I went back, I did a video on it because it explains so well how to use whatever controllers that you've bought your VR version of Skyrim for. It's a really nice little ring that you just walk through where it goes, this is how you walk. How would you like to walk? Would you like to change that setting now? Okay, good. Now walk around the corner, now that you know how. How would you like to jump? Let me set that button up for you now. Skyrim does that. I feel like where this is a full-fledged game, it could use a sort of VR-specific tutorial, because I was very lost. Driving a car is the same as walking, which I have real issues with whoever made that decision. Have you played it yet?
No, I've not. I played so much Borderlands 2 back in the day, outside of that when I saw VR, I thought, well, I've kind of been there before. I didn't feel the need to. I think the last VR game I touched was probably Blood and Truth, actually.
How did you find that, before I carry on about my middle feelings for Borderlands?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I felt that it's definitely one of those games that I made the mistake of playing religiously for the first few hours and really getting into a rhythm with it. And then I stepped away for about 2 months, and I did not realize how important it was. You know, we talk about muscle memory with games a lot. And for me, the muscle memory was completely gone. And in VR, that's a very different experience, because a game like that with the reloading of the weapons isn't just a button. It's the actual hand gestures and everything. It really actually took me for a spin. I regretted that.
No, I can only reinforce that point, that the way that games present themselves when you first turn them on in VR it's really vital to the experience, because every controller is different. Like if you've got a Vive, your controllers are different to a PSVR. But I'll never get my head around some of the decisions that people make for their VR titles, like in Borderlands 2, where if you want to drive a car forwards, you still just... Because if you want to walk in Skyrim, you just tilt your left hand or your right hand like a joystick, and they've done that for Borderlands 2. And then you get in a car and it's the same. So I was like looking for buttons, and I was like, which one's forwards? I can't find a button for forwards. Maybe I grab the steering wheel. Is there a button? Is there something on screen? And then I tilted my hand and went, oh, I just walk forwards and the car accelerates. And if you walk backwards, you go backwards, and that's really disorientating. I hate that, and that should be patched or changed. But driving in VR is a nightmare. I don't know how you, without without an actual controller in your hand with tactile feedback from all of your little joysticks, you can't really do it in VR. So it's a good happy medium, but the way games actually give you tutorials and present buttons is really, really important, I think, for VR. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're actually going to talk about that a little bit today in the news section of our program here, because we've got a little bit of an Iron Man demo to talk about here shortly. Anything else you've been playing, Adam?
No,
that you hadn't mentioned yet?
No, I think that's about it for everything that I've been playing recently, because all the rest of my time has been in dissertation writing and building 3D objects in 3ds Max and smashing my head against virtual brick walls. So yeah, I haven't had all that much time spare, but a lot of Rec Room is about it.
Okay, excellent. I will just update listeners on what I've been playing as well. I want to touch on that. And if you listened to our podcast last week, you may have heard me talk about Days Gone. It's still got me fully engrossed to the point where I'm pretty much not playing anything else. I have dipped my toe back into the water with Neo 2, so I've got 2 very long games.
It's funny Neo 2. It's fun. Oh wait, no, you're Neo. I thought you said Nier because of the internet.
No, not Nier.
No, everyone loves Nier. I was going to say, because they're re-releasing Nier 1, which makes me very, very happy, because I so much prefer Nier 1 when I played it at the time on my PS3 and was like, this is amazing. But that's a different topic entirely. You carry on.
Well, no, absolutely. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, just because I am a huge Nier Automata fan, and Matt almost, I think, gets tired of me talking about it, but I never got around to the original Nier, so it'll be very exciting for me to experience that. Yeah.
Oh, that you
know what I was actually hoping for? I was hoping, Adam, that they would put it on PSNow, because
I mean, arguably, I don't know
that
why
seems like a perfect game.
Yeah, it does seem like a perfect game. I don't know why there's a lot of things that aren't on PS Now, because you mentioned over Twitter when we were having a chat that there aren't any VR games on PS Now, and I was like, I'm sure there are, and I went and had a look, and there are. There's at least Eve Valkyrie was on there, and so was what's the new job simulator called? Vacation Simulator? That was up there. Yes, I couldn't find some of the other ones though, like Tetris VR, not there. So it seems very selective. I couldn't tell you why. I've never owned the PS Now subscription service, but it's a weird a cloud thing, isn't it? It's so selective of what they will and will not have there.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that, because the reason I brought that up with you too is because I just recently got subscribed to PS Now with that. They had a discount a couple of weeks ago where it was $45 for the year, and so I thought, well, I'll try this out. And I know that you are the VR guru, as I like to say, and so we'll talk a little bit about that too, about what can they do to maybe build that service in that regard as well. Before we do that, though, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to mention. Oh, Apex Legends, of course, I've dove back into. I don't know why, but I did, and I can't stop there either. But that's neither here nor there. So let's go ahead and get into a little bit of the news here today, Adam, and I'll kind of ask for your thoughts on some of these stories here. The first one, and I don't know how much you keep up with the Epic Game Store and Google Stadia and the these services that are kind of out there that are trying to really steal the thunder from Steam and from consoles. But Serious Sam 4, Planet Badass, has been confirmed for PlayStation 4, but it's not actually coming to current gens until 2021, which by then, of course, we'll get the new systems. That's because there's an exclusivity deal that it now holds with Google Stadia. And so speaking with Kotaku, Devolver Digital representative said that the game is still coming to Xbox One and PlayStation 4 after its period of exclusivity is over with Stadia. And so it won't be coming till next year. And so I was wondering what you thought of that. How do you feel about Stadia doing this? Because this is not the only game they've kind of taken from consoles.
No. Damn, I hope none of my lecturers ever listen to this, because we get spoken to about how these big conglomerates behave. But my opinion is very much that it's not right. Exclusivity doesn't really help anybody except that one platform. So if Steam was to do an exclusivity deal, that would be just as... But they don't. I don't believe they do. I can't think of any game that's only on Steam. I'm sure there are things that, aren't on console or aren't available in other places, but you could say the same about PS4, you could say the same about the Xbox store. Microsoft have got their store where there are plenty of apps and things which they have to themselves. But I think when you're talking about something like Google Stadia or the Epic store, I find that it's just the way that they behave. It just doesn't seem honest to me. I personally think exclusivity is a bad thing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just my opinion, though. I know a lot of people are 50-50 on it, because if you've got something like the Epic Store, and from their point of view, they're quite a small company. Steam is the much larger. They have all the games, even the ones that nobody wants, because they just put them there for fun. And so you're talking about a really small company in comparison to Steam, and they're trying to basically run their own store. It's a big wall to come up against, but I don't know if there are better ways to go around it than to just try and hoard games, because eventually it will go to other platforms, and I don't know anybody that doesn't just wait. If there's a game that comes out on Xbox and I'm like, oh, it comes out on PS4 in a year's time, I just wait. Like, I've never found myself going, do you know what, I really must fork out £400 for an Xbox right now, because I just cannot wait for it to come out on PS4 in like a year. So I don't see why an Epic Store deal or a Stadia Store deal would make any difference other than upset the fan base, which is what the game company themselves don't want. So it makes your game into like a pawn for other companies to use as their own publicity. It feels wrong to me to do that to someone's property, that a company has put so much time and effort into making such a nice game. And then other companies kind of play with it and go, oh, well, it's ours now, everyone should come here. And it becomes a huge hoo-ha on the internet. And all it does is upset the fan base. So I'm against it on a customer standpoint, but I do understand the business practice, and I get why it needs to be done.
I do too, and I understand it from a business standpoint. And I think the biggest issue, and we see this over and over again that people have with this, is if it's going to be exclusive, as in exclusive to that system, like a Spider-Man or Days Gone is to Sony, or Halo is to Xbox, that's fine. I think what ends up happening with these companies that say, well, we'll do a year with Stadia or a year with Xbox, and then it will come to these other systems, is you are right. Two things happen. One, people wait to play those games a year. It doesn't dictate that I'm going to run out and purchase Google Stadia because I know it's coming eventually, right? And the other issue I actually have with this is a lot of times, and I don't have exact numbers on this, but I guarantee, I think of Tomb Raider as the biggest example of this, that happens with other games as well. People tend to forget about those games, and then when it does come out, it has a softer sales experience on those platforms than it may have had if it was just available day one when everybody was talking about it.
Yeah, they completely lose all the momentum that they would have built up from all. Because again, I can only agree with you. But say Undertale was released today and it was a Stadia only thing. It took a few years for that game to really, or at least a little while from its release, for people to play it, realize what it was, really get their teeth into it, and discover the magic of the game that is Undertale. Or something like Portal, if that came out today and it was only on the Epic Store, like, would it lose all of its appeal because only 10 people, or, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, 500,000, 200,000 people would play it on Epic Store and then a year later everyone else would play it, would it have the same impact? And I think the answer is no. I couldn't agree any more than that. And it's all on the developers loss, because they've put all the effort into this product, and then when they go to sell it, it's just got like a second wave which nobody really wanted, and then it gets forgotten. Yeah, it's a real shame to see that happen to some titles.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's tough, but I thought I'd bring that up because Serious Sam sounds interesting to me. I checked it out a little bit. It's just, and I know I like Devolver Digital as a publisher, and so I'm a little shocked actually that a publisher who seems so anti-corporate, even though they are, a corporation and publisher themselves, chose to do this. And so they must have gotten a buttload of money is all I can figure for that. So,
well, that's the other thing as well, isn't it? Epic do offer a better payment system, because I bet there's a lot of people listening going, but Epic do offer more money if you pick your game there. They're more kind to their developers that they're in partnership with than Steam are, and that is true. So there is a monetary value to going to Epic or Stadia rather than going to Steam, but I don't see how it could ever outweigh, like you say, however much money you are paid. I don't see how that could really influence a whole game development studio to throw everything they've done in terms of building up hype and the work, and just to go there for a year early.
Yeah, and goodwill too, right? Because goodwill goes a long way. We see it all the time with CD Projekt Red and their games. I think has made them a very successful developer because they have such goodwill with their audience. All right.
No, exactly.
Let's see here. So I wanted to touch on another game that just recently came out that seems to be losing steam already, and that is Mafia 2 Definitive Edition, launched on PlayStation 4 this past week. And it seems like it leaves a lot to be desired. The original launched back on PlayStation 3 all the way back in 2010. It might be the same game, but it's given a bit of a visual overhaul, better textures, lighting, performance. However, it seems like it's rather rough on PS4, because if you go into the forums for Mafia 2, it's not necessarily unplayable or broken, but it has unstable frame rate drops. It has issues with hitting the 60 frames per second that it promises on PS4 Pro. It has a few bugs, such as having to restart an entire mission because button prompts and other interactions don't appear. People get stuck in environments, forcing them to reload on multiple occasions. And I thought that was kind of a shame, considering that they clearly had plenty of time to work on this, because they did not announce this Mafia 2 stuff until last week and decided to drop the game. So no one knew this stuff was coming. And so you would think that they would have done a little bit better job of QAing that, I think, in the process, right?
No, yeah, that's true. I hadn't heard about this, so I'm just reading in front of me. But I'm seeing a lot of glitches. There's somebody halfway through a wall. There's another person. There's a lot of glitches in front of me on this Google search. So it doesn't look like they've done it well. But I really loved the original Mafia 2. So I'm actually kind of, I'm now torn. Like, I want this to be really good, but I'm seeing lots of complaints about frame rates on the Reddit posts here. So it does look like it's got some issues. When they only announced it, a week or two ago?
I think it was about a week ago, or 2 weeks ago. I think it leaked, and then last week they dropped a trailer, or it might have been the beginning of this week, announcing that Mafia 2 and Mafia 3 would be re-released on PS4 and Xbox One, and then the definitive edition of Mafia, or the remastered edition of Mafia itself, it doesn't come till August. And so it sounds like a lot of love and care has been taken to rework and upgrade the original Mafia. It seems like, though, Mafia 2 might be a little bit of a different story here, right?
Yeah,
based on these.
As far as textures go, I've got to say this is a dramatic overhaul. It's gone from looking quite old to nearly GTA 5 standards, which I suppose is still quite old. But no, this looks really nice. I personally would love this to be really good. I'll be really annoyed if I play this and it's not good. So I'm on the side of pro Mafia, which you don't get to say very often.
Yes, that is true. That is very true. So are you following the AC Valhalla stuff as well?
Oh, I loved the early AC games and went off them as time went on, because I just kept expecting them to go to the future and tie up some
loose ends.
Yeah, I just wanted them every now and then to go, here's two past games, and then back in the day when we only had 1, 2, and I was like, when we get to 3, I'm certain that they'll have to go and it will be running around on rooftops and exploring this sci-fi world where we're kind of really having a sort of dream in a chair and all of this is a simulation. And they still haven't done it, so I've just fell out of love with it. But I've seen trailers. As always, it looks beautiful. There's lots of photometric scanning that's taken place. They've done a vast amount of work from the last 2 games in terms of like they've worked on their exploration mode. They've really nailed down what the franchise is now, because there was a time period where people thought they were trying to go down sort of not a Dark Souls route, but it was going to get more hardcore and sort of dark and mysterious. And it seems to have turned and become more of like, it's almost a historical documentary that you can play now. And I do like that, but it's never appealed to me to get into the new one.
Yeah, and I've tried to continue with them, but they've also gotten bigger and bigger, and so that has always been my issue. And that was apparently a bit of a topic, a little bit of a hot topic right now, because the initial reveal of Valhalla kind of implied that it was going to be around the same size, if not smaller, than Odyssey, because of the way that they had designed this game. They said they wanted a more compact experience.
Oh,
but
really?
But then an interview that has been translated to English over on the game's subreddit, Lafayette, who is the Montreal producer for the game, says the game's map is, quote, probably a bit larger, end quote, than Odyssey's. I don't have the exact figures at this stage, he said, but have not only created the whole country, which is in this case England, but also to a good part of Norway too. That's not to mention, quote, other secret worlds that Lafayette says have contributed to the game's size. Now, that doesn't match up with what Malik Tafa said, because he says it's neither the longest nor the biggest game in the series. And so they have since updated that and said that the statement they got back from the publisher, this is via Push Square, they reached out and they said, quote, Odyssey has fantastic momentum. Our aim with Valhalla is to build on that by creating a more approachable story while adding more depth and new features and activities to the open world that we believe will keep players engaged for a long time, end quote. And so they didn't actually address the size of the map.
Oh.
But I did find that a bit odd, because I would hope that if you're going to have a more compact story or a more approachable story, that you would actually limit the map size to be smaller, so that I'm not spending 20 minutes trekking across a map to remember the main quest I'm on.
I wonder if that's part of the dev team thinking about the map in terms of solid parts you can walk on, and another part thinking like, oh no, the whole world counts, so just add it all up as if it were a drawing, the thing that you sell to people. It's massive.
Right.
Because it sounds to me, from what I've heard here and there, like there's going to be some kind of other world part of the game, just from the odd hint. Like you say, that there might be other layers to reality, because it's Norse mythology, and how can you not have a portal that goes to some icy tundra? You're missing the point of going into Norse stuff if they haven't done that somewhere. So they'll probably have another world area, maybe like, a bit of Valhalla itself. Maybe someone will die and see the afterlife. So I reckon if they're including those parts, or maybe they've got an online section, because again, like over the years, they keep sort of thinking about it. And I think this could be the game where they go, you're going to be training to be a Viking. If there are any people on Earth that we can get away with having a gladiatorial online fighting arena, it's going to be in Valhalla, Vikings, where everyone's dead, and it's that part of the game that you can just visit online, and everyone can hang out and kind of share these beautiful photos that they've taken and try to do something with it. Because they're at the point where they're nearly... I feel like they need like a little social thing tacked on for people to kind of share some of this stuff that they're making, because it is almost like GTA 5 had its cinema mode, and it has that bit where you can actually record like your own like almost movies and things. Valhalla is on the cusp. I feel like they're about to go, we're going to release all these things that games have done for a while, but for some reason we haven't, because we're almost at the stage, I think, where they are trying to make almost a historical documentary with a twist that you can play. So it depends. I'm very curious to see what they do with this one. If any of the Assassin's Creed game are going to get me involved, it might be this one. But I will still have to see it come out, see everyone play it, and go, this is exactly the same as all the other ones. but with a few minor changes, and they've done some textures, so now we're in snow. And I'll go, oh, it's nothing different. Or they'll have completely overhauled the whole thing and we'll be really surprised. But gameplay trailer was a bit, the first one was a bit weak. Then they showed some actual gameplay for a few seconds. And it was
a few seconds, yes.
Yeah, it was like, looks very pretty. And I'm looking at a lot of these trailers now with like my animator's lens from fiddling around in things. And it's like, this all stinks, not just of being pre-rendered, but it stinks of not actually in the game. I've got a feeling a lot of these little cutscenes and things might be like just placeholders because the backgrounds don't quite look like they're finished. And I'm like, it's very pretty, but if you look at the very backgrounds of all the trailers of like gameplay, they look a bit kind of like they're not finished. I think they recorded this a while ago so they could get to work, and coronavirus has told them to stop. So they might just be throwing some stuff they've got ready at the public so that we don't forget about it, or it could all be planned and they've got some wonderful online mode that they haven't told us about. I am curious. It's funny you bring that up. I've got an eye on it. A lot of people are talking about it.
Yes, I'm curious about it too, and I think what I find interesting is that you said that first trailer was kind of underwhelming. We've talked about it on this podcast where if you've watched Vikings, which is that show on the History Channel, it's also on Amazon Prime, the trailer actually feels like they took the first season of Vikings and someone went, oh, yes, I like that show quite a bit. Can we make a trailer that looks just like we're recapping that first season? And so that was my issue with that trailer. And then they did show just a tiny bit of gameplay. I really do hope though that this map is smaller because I never finished Odyssey and I can't play a game that large anymore at this time in my life. And so I really, really like Vikings. As you said, it's something that really I think will pull people in, but I'm also a little concerned with the map size. So the fact that they kind of dodged that makes me wonder if they do have kind of what you talked about, a multiplayer component they haven't revealed yet, or if we've even gotten an opportunity here for them to talk about the map being bigger in the present day sections, because those are still present in Origins and Odyssey, although very small.
Yeah, I was going to say
sections of the game.
They're barely cutscenes. You just walk around.
Yes.
You lose all the HUD, which is arguably some of my favorite bits. Was when they like go, you just have to walk for a bit, and I'd just be walking up to like sci-fi desks and going, "There's got to be something I can click on. There's got to be story here," and it's not. It's just go to bed. And then you will be stolen in a cutscene, and then you will go back to killing people in the past, damn it. And I'm like, no, I want to explore the plot. Like the overarching plot, not like just the one game. That's what's... Yeah, I would love to see them do an online and really expand the map. Because then if they do an online, they can do GTA 5, keep adding stuff. They could try and make something really clever out of it. But if they are just talking about map size, then it's a question of, do we include the sea in our map? Because if there are boats, which... I mean, they love boats.
I think they said there will be
Vikings.
boats.
Yeah, how can they not have boats? Then there's going to be going across the ocean. So there will be islands, and there'll be giant snakes which form new landmass halfway through the game. There'll be an island that will come out the ocean or something, and they're like, oh, do we mention that yet? Do we include that? Do we want to spoil these things? And it's all a bit of a... Again, I think it's just where they might just be throwing stuff forwards and they haven't quite decided or what they're going to sort of discuss yet. But it's an interesting time for a lot of game publicity as a whole. So it's weird seeing what people are... It's a weird seeing what these game companies are even telling us right now to try and keep us entertained.
Absolutely. So moving on, we're going to talk a little bit just briefly about this. I just find this fascinating. And so I don't really have a dog in this fight or any kind of interest in this, but I do find it very fascinating that the install size of Call of Duty Modern Warfare on PlayStation 4 continues to grow. I believe when the game came out, it was near 100 gigabytes.
What?
It's now near 200 gigabytes. And as of a couple of days ago, users had to download a mandatory 21.61 gigabyte update in order to continue playing the game. So we're up to about 222 gigabytes for PlayStation 4's install size for Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
That is obscene. I can't think of a stronger word that won't have to be beeped or removed, because whether or not we're allowed to swear, I can't remember, but if not, then I swore a minute ago and I bet that'll be removed in the final version. But my God, I can't believe 200 gig.
Yes.
That's incredible. I've got a first version PS4. Like, I dare say, I think the limit is because when you actually turn it on and you go, oh, it says it's 400 gig. You turn it on, you have a look at the settings, and you go, how much storage is there? 299. I'm sorry, I bought a 400. Oh, wait, of course, because there's a PS4 on there, and you go, that takes up 80 gig. Is the PS4 bit? So really, you only have like 350, really 300. I can't imagine putting that would cripple me. No, that's ridiculous, and they need to compress their game. Like, that's totally doable. There's no reason for any game to be that big. That's ridiculous.
And it does make me think of, oh gosh, what was the game recently? I was very impressed. I downloaded a patch for it, and it actually shrunk the file size. And I looked at the patch notes, and it's like we have streamlined some of the repetitive processes and some of the information in here to make sure that we can compress the file size. I'm trying to think who it was. I downloaded it and it made the game smaller. But 200 some. Yeah. And so I can't remember which game it was. I'm looking through my trophy list right now to see if I can remember, but I cannot remember who it was. It went from maybe 35 gigabytes to down to 28, and it was like, well, thank you.
See, that makes sense, because what they might have done there is they might have decided to compress their textures. Or they might have worked out we've got all this code sat here that decides when the character runs. And now we've found out that we can do it all with 2 lines of code. We'll just delete that and rewrite it and update the game. And that removes a bit of memory. Because it's, again, that's really impressive, though, that some people are actually going through that. But the idea that COD must be, it's broken then. Like, every single texture must be in its own little file. It sounds so. It must be. I'd love to see the actual files for that game now that make it 200 gig, and just see if it's like a defragged nightmare. If there's just numbers and things just scattered everywhere, and it just takes that much effort for the PS4 to find it all. Because really, you just put all the textures in one place, and then they all become instances, and that should be it. Like, every time you see a brick wall in a game, that's like an instance of that texture. Or if you see a rock that's the same, it's just an instance. So in reality, according to the code, there's only one rock in existence, but it copy and pastes that one rock. So there's still only one when the game looks in its head. It never ever sees more. So the idea that COD would have it's like the idea that every individual tree there must be its own asset for the game would make it massive. But even GTA isn't that big. And I thought that was pretty bad when that got to 80 gig, and I'm sure it's past that now.
It's amazing to think that they are having such a size issue, because I would argue too that it's not even the best looking game on PS4, and so for you to have over 200 gigabytes like that does seem rather excessive in its.
Have they added anything
approach.
I'm not aware of? You've got zombies and you've got a couple of maps to run around in. Are the maps drastically bigger now?
They've added some maps. They've added a hard hat map and a new gunfight arena named Isle 9 as part of this new 22 gigabyte. Though? I don't know.
How? Oh, okay. Because I'm wondering, sheerly, if they're battle royale scale islands, then I'm like, okay, you have some legitimacy there. If they are, this is an airport, arguably a larger, more realistic and scaled airport to real life. But if it's just an airport, then there is still no need for it to be 20 gig. Or whatever, just an area, an arena. It seems so large.
Yes, it does. It's a little absurd.
I was just about to mention it might be that's the PC version, and that's just... If it's exactly the same on Steam, the update, as it is on PS4, then that's bad game developing, and they should be sort of compressing it for 4 consoles, which might explain the size, because on PC you can just add more memory willy-nilly, so they might not care. Like, most Steam games don't really mind. Just go, we'll just update it. No one's going to run out of memory on their 4 terabyte computers, because the cheapest computer these days has got a terabyte built in.
At least 2, I think.
Silly. Yeah, so you don't need to worry about it. So it could just be that they've just been a bit lazy and they've just gone, update's ready, Steam, where's the PS4 release button? There! And they just hit it and they just go, and it releases, and that's the end of it. They might not give it a second thought, but it should be smaller.
And what I wonder about that too is actually, I would think that because of their marketing campaign with PlayStation, that the majority of their Call of Duty Modern Warfare sales probably come from PS4. So you would think that if they were looking at optimization of file size on anything, they would start there and then go, well, this will work for everything else now. But I'm not Activision. I don't know. So we'll see what happens there. We'll continue to monitor that. Perhaps by the end of this generation, it'll be up to 400 gigabytes. We'll see. Moving on. Did you happen to see anything about the Ghost of Tsushima state of play?
Oh, yes. Oh, my eyes were melting
excited?
out of my little Japanese waifu skull. I couldn't. I'm going to play that game in Japanese with subtitles in black and white. Loads of people were like, "This mode seems a bit extreme. Who will be playing this?" And I was just
Everybody.
going, me. That's me.
Too.
I'm going to play it in black and white. Done. Like, that sounds and looks amazing.
Japanese
and quite
voiceovers
surprising.
and everything.
Yeah, can't wait. Absolutely can't wait for that. And arguably, I love the way they've done the wind that guides you. There's little game mechanics, which are just game mechanics, where someone's sat in an office and gone, "We should have the wind guide you," and someone does a quick effect and builds that in. But there are other things that are absolutely genius, like just the way that you are actually exploring the map, that you see visual cues on the horizon to guide you through the world. It makes it very much like a movie, like a samurai film. And they've made a real point of saying that they don't want you to be running for long periods with nothing to do. There's going to be like things around. Yeah, the world is really padded. I'm really curious because they showed, I'm sure everybody did the same, but I paused it when they showed that world map picture for like a split second. And you could see that it's got fuzzy edges. And I'm like, does that mean there's more map? If that means there's, I mean, hopefully, but it means, you know, I wonder how much more. But the question of the scale of this world is something I cannot wait to get my teeth into. It looks like a sort of Breath of the Wild for adults, which is weird to say because I said that about Skyrim when I was trying to get my mate.
No, I think that fits.
But yeah, to me, it looks like that.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things I did read that recently this week or last week, where they did talk about the fact that what we saw in the state of play experience was just a small portion of the map, and that is the what they called the starting area, and that you would find a much larger area outside of that. Yeah, so we'll see about that. The other thing that they brought up this past week that I wanted to bring up was because seemed to be a little bit of confusion here in terms of the styles of fighting, because one, he was marching into the Mongol camp facing them head on. The other one was him acting as the ghost and sneaking in the shadows, and it was presented almost as if to suggest that one was like a more honorable and one was a dishonorable path, which is very similar to their infamous games with the good and bad playthroughs.
Yes,
but,
I was going to say that.
Yeah, creative director Jason Connell actually spoke to IGN and said the following. He said, quote, "There's definitely important story moments that are more reflective of this change from Samurai to Ghost than others. But the reality is that even as you have gotten to some story moments, you can still play the game as the Samurai. You may just be more potent or more powerful. We don't make you choose between Samurai and Ghost," end quote. And so I thought that was really significant because that doesn't necessarily imply a morality system anymore.
I think as far as that interview, because I also came across that interview and read it thinking exactly the same thing. I'm hoping that from the gameplay that would mean that, like Infamous, where it never actually like locked something off. It sometimes would, but you could go up to a doorway and they'd go, "You can't come in this way because you are clearly not nice enough. You are a bad person. You just go away." And then you go, "Right, well, I'll sneak in the back entrance then using my drone and I'll get the information the nasty way." But either way, you are still getting some data for a little group of teenagers somewhere who are doing good overall. So I feel like it depends on what our job in the world is and how missions are sort of laid out. But I'm hoping it means that there will be some replay value. Like you'll be able to do it one way and burst through the roof and all the children in this samurai building will go, "Oh no, a scary ninja," and you'll scare them all away. But at least the building's empty. And then the second time you do it, you'll go there and you'll be a ninja and you'll just take all the children away by bursting through the door and going, "I'm here to rescue you." And they all run and give you a hug. The same outcome is still true. But there'll be different ways of approaching it. That's what I'm hoping. In a dream world, I'm hoping if I was in charge, I'd go full on, like, you have to play it one way or the other, like Undertale. I'd love to be able to play it one way as a bad guy and have things which locked off if I got too evil or if I killed too many people by just beheading them rather than sneaking as a ninja, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping that the samurai and the ninja route both have a good and evil sort of side to them. So you could be a bad ninja by just killing everyone, or you could be a good ninja by knocking them all out with poison gas and sneaking in that way. Either way, you're a ninja. And the same for a samurai. You might just behead everyone with your sword, or you might go for honorable combat and do things properly. So I'm hoping it's just more open-ended than they're letting on, rather than one way or the other.
Yeah, I'd be excited to see that too. And I think something that keeps getting lost that a lot of people tend to forget from that state of play is that they said, we have so much more that we want to show you and tell you, but they kind of implied we're just not doing it today. And I think that's one thing that keeps getting lost in all these news stories, because a lot of questions have come up, and Sucker Punch has been very good about answering them and showing them off and talking to us about them. But I do think that there's a lot more that's going to be revealed in release up to its release date. I think what they want to do, though, is probably quiet down a little bit, let Last of Us Part 2 take its glory, I guess, and shine. And then once that's done, I feel like we'll hear even more in the weeks leading up to release to remind them. But it is one of my more anticipated games this year because it looks phenomenal, and I'm excited to see what this samurai versus ninja ghost experience is like.
Yeah,
I'm excited to play around with that.
Did you ever play, I think it was Tenshu? I'm pretty sure it was Tenshu. I'll be annoyed if it's not. There was a very old samurai game that was done...
That's the one, yes.
Yeah, it was done by the people who went on to do like Armored Core and then Dark Souls, if you go so back in their timeline. But that's superb. One of my favourite ninja sneaking games. And when I saw the trailer for this, I just went, it looks the same. You've got all the same tools. I'm there. So I just can't wait for this. I'm hoping that because it looks kind of like there'll be some sort of magic-y stuff and there might be some cool effects, but I'm hoping it doesn't go too over the top. I'm hoping we don't like fight a dragon. I'd really like it to stay quite grounded. Neo did a good job, I think, of kind of treading that line of going, these people are real, but the events are twisted slightly, and if, there's got to be a giant snake lady for you to kill, then so be it. It's a game after all. So there's got to be a degree, I'm hoping, where they take it really seriously, or it won't have the same impact, because they're older games, it wasn't as bad. If you're just playing teenagers, it's quite an easy demographic to hit. You're a hacker, you're going to do cool stuff, you've got a drone, it's going to be neon lights everywhere. It's sci-fi, it rolls off the tongue.
Exactly.
When you start going like Neo did, or some other games, you go, we're going to go feudal Japan. Instantly, everyone's got a very strong opinion on that. You go, oh, well, I've learnt Japanese and I've been doing it for years. Now I've got a dissertation. This building would never look like this. And you've got other people that are just like, I love anime. Anything with the word Japan on it, I'm there. And so it's a much harder niche to please. But I think they've done a great job.
Much more diverse crowd there.
Exactly. It's that diversity that I think they're trying to nail by giving people so many options. Because the last thing you want is someone to go, but I really wanted to play a ninja. And you go, don't worry. You can play a ninja. You can do all of this as a ninja in any way you like. Oh, okay, you've got my attention, says the kid who's just bought like a little sword off eBay and he's putting on his Naruto helmet. Now I'm interested as he takes it all off.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens with it. It looks phenomenal, though, either way.
Yeah.
So 2 more stories to wrap things up, and one of them is actually going to lead us into one of the topics I brought up. So the first one I want to just kind of get out of the way is we all know about the debacle that was Anthem back in February.
Oh, yes.
They did reveal that there was an overhaul of the game in the works, and it was going to be a more substantial reinvention than an update or an expansion. Now, we haven't heard anything since, but in a new blog post, studio director Christian Daly wrote, quote, "The Anthem incubation team has kicked off, and we are starting to validate our design hypotheses. Incubation is a term we use internally. It essentially means we are going back and experimenting prototyping to improve on the areas where we believe we fell short and to leverage everything that you currently love about Anthem. We are a small team, about 30-ish people, earning our way forward as we set out to hit our first major milestone goals. Spoilers, this is going to be a long process. And yes, the team is small, but the whole point of this is to take our time and go back to the drawing board. And a small team gives us the agility a larger one can't afford." End quote. And I wanted to bring that up because it sounds like if you're the kind of person that's one of the 10 people still playing Anthem, you might be waiting at least another year before you see anything.
I think this is a classic sign of that game we made isn't doing so well, and oh, good, everyone's at home because of arguably a worldwide infection that no one can go out, and our numbers haven't gone up, and they've gone, everyone's forgotten. I think this is a stab in the dark to try and get people interested, because all they've done really is put up a sticker saying, we're having a look at it. Really,
Yes.
because that's all they've said is we are not happy with it because it's not working, and if it's not working, we don't make any money because everything's a business. It's a game where they're looking at that sort of, they're aiming for that kind of style of gameplay. So if it's not making money, you have to overhaul it and improve it. But I don't know what they can do to something like that other than it missed the mark. Was the game truly there? I don't know what the core gameplay element really is to that game. Like, I don't think you can salvage it unless they went down the route of like World of Warcrafting it maybe and making it more like traveling, and maybe not World of Warcraft, but maybe more like Monster Hunter. Maybe that's a better example. Maybe curve it towards something like that. Go, oh, you're not always returning to one place. Now you're going to have lots of places to call home. And you'll go out into these shops which are scattered across the world, and there are monsters to track down. Look at this wonderful, luscious environment that we showed off years ago but was never in the game when we released it. We're bringing it back in. There's things they could do, but I don't see any of those things being true. I think they're just going to go, we've overhauled the loot box system, and now you can get all these new mechs which are so much better than the old ones, they're almost worth paying for, but we're going to give them to you for free in our new 2.1 update, along with a brand new area to explore, and we've redone the textures. I can't see them. I'll eat my words if they completely overhaul it and it's completely rebuilt from the ground up, because it's arguably a nice game. It's just lacking a core. The core gameplay loop is just a farce, and without it, it doesn't work. So they need to change that, and there's only a couple of ways to do that in an online game, and that's just to make the things you do in-game more interesting, so you want to come back and play it over and over, or ramp up the difficulty and charge more. And I think they've tried option 2, and it didn't work. So now they're trying option 1, which is to try and make there more to come back for. And whilst no one's playing it, now's the time to sort of drum up some interest and see if there's a community there that even want them to. Because this is BioWare, who I love to death, but overarching, it's EA, and EA are more, I think there's a meeting where they've sat there going, do we really want to put all this money into Anthem, or is it just a dead horse? And someone said, do a blog post and see if anyone answers. If there's hundreds of thousands of people that go, yes, we would buy this, then now is the time to work in it, because we're all stuck at home. And if not, then we'll do something else.
I also think that EA has this delusion because they've seen what somebody like The Division 2 or No Man's Sky, we've started to see now in development this redemption arc where let's put out a broken or a slightly underwhelming product, and as an act of goodwill, we'll fix everything a year later for fans, and they'll love it and will look like the heroes, and they'll certainly be hooked for the next game. And because I think we've seen that more in the last 2 years, 3 years than we ever have, where because of the ability to patch things and to really restructure things, I think of even like Rainbow Six Siege. That game is on year 5 or 6 of success because of the way that they came back out and fixed things and really stuck with the game. And the problem I have with this is actually Ubisoft is really good at doing that, right? They know how to turn their games around, because they even announced that with, the one that bombed the Wildlands, right?
Ghost Recon. Yes.
That, or whatever it was, the most recent one. So they promised to go back and fix that, but Ubisoft knows how to do that. I'm not sure if EA does, and so I'll be very interested to see. Because even Destiny, right? Destiny 2 had its redemption arc, and Destiny did, and they managed to pull people back into where those are considered excellent games now. And so I think EA sees all of this and goes, well, we have something here with Anthem. It's already done. We'll be the goodwill EA and get the redemption arc going for us. And so I think what I read in this story more than anything, though, is that they told us that they were going to do this months ago, and they're like, oh, by the way, we're still at the drawing phase. We haven't even begun working yet. And so you're probably gonna have to wait at least another year for this, is kind of the message I'm getting from them as well. So
I want to be on your... See, it sounds nice and I want to believe you, but I think I think I'm on your side. I'd love that to be true because, like I was saying, Anthem's not, particularly ugly or particularly unpleasant to play. It's just a bit lackluster and doesn't deserve much. And it's like they could. Yeah, it's just missing so much. Would they put the effort in? It had such a struggle to retain players when it started as well. Like even when it launched, it was so rocky that their player base it's not even like No Man's Sky, where arguably it dropped and it was like a bomb went off when the game was announced in the worst possible way. But it still had a core player base that really liked it, even in its kind of Minecraft state, if you want to call it that, when it sort of first released. It was in its pure survival only mode, like a beta almost of like Subnautica when it first released. That's what we got, and certain amounts of the community really dug that. And then there's people like me, and I assume yourself, who waited, and then when they announced VR, went, I am willing to dabble. I've already paid for it. I'll have a look. And then you put the headset on and went, no, this has been overhauled. This is a whole new experience. It deserves my attention. And I just don't see them doing that for Anthem. They just don't. It's just not got enough care and love behind it. I've never talked to a friend who's gone, Anthem is one game that I know not many people like and I really like it, but if only they'd change this one boss, or if only they'd change this one gun. It's just not a conversation that happens because, like, do you know what the bad guy's name is, like, in Anthem? Because I don't. If you know what I mean.
I never even played it, so I have no idea. I knew nothing about it.
But there are lots of games like World of Warcraft, which I arguably don't play and never will, but I do know things about them because they've made the public consciousness. And I don't think Anthem is going to ever pierce through that, and it's too late now. I think this is a stab in the dark to try and get some attention, and if they don't get attention, then they won't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what happens. I'll be very curious to find out in November when they make another announcement that they're still working on it.
Just for a quick fun prediction, what do you think that announcement will actually be? Pictures, video, tweet?
No, I think it'll be another tweet that says we've started working on it and we are excited to announce something in March of next year. And then
do you think so? Oh, do you think they'd really be that cheeky to go?
I think so.
Let's just announce that we're going to do an announcement, and in that announcement, we'll announce it's going to be next year in March time.
Yes, absolutely.
That does sound. You can't spell steel without EA, so that sounds about right.
So, all right. So we're going to move on here. We're going to talk about a couple of things that you and I had tweeted about and DM'd about earlier. The first foremost is one of the reasons this news story, and this will lead us into our PSNow talk, but PlayStation Now streaming service seemed like something that wasn't going to work really well for PlayStation. However, about a month ago, they cut the price of the subscription. Well, they cut it about a year ago, I think. And then a month ago, they had a discount on it. And that is, I think, clearly reflected in the total number of users who have picked up a subscription over the last month. Because as of April 2020, it recorded more than 2.2 million subs, a stat which is more than double the count from this time last year. And so Sony recorded roughly 700,000 subscribers at the end of March 2018, a little over 1 million 12 months later. So they jumped about 300,000. And then within a year, they've jumped 1.2 million. They credit that increase to the sort of PlayStation 4 games that have been coming to the service, including Spider-Man, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Persona 5, as well as Control. And so what I wanted your kind of take on this was, because Matt and I have talked about this, we both actually went with a PS Now subscription. We figured we had nothing to lose over that year at $45, because that knocks it down to less than $4 a month.
Yeah, totally.
Do you think PS Now, because it seems like it's growing in subs, and clearly putting the big games on there has impacted it, do you think, even though I think the statistics are something like 1 in, I want to say, like, if you do the math, it's like 1 in 100 people own a PSVR headset or something like that. I forget the exact math. Do you foresee if more PSVR games would go to that, do you think that would help with the subscription service? As somebody who plays a lot in VR, would that entice you?
That's very tricky. I don't think it would. No, I think if... What's wrong with just going to the store? Surely you only use PSNow if you don't have access to a PlayStation, because that's the idea, isn't it? That you stream straight to this box from the cloud, the game.
Well,
do you still need the PS4 to make a...
You can use a PS4 or a PC.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you plug it, yeah. So you connect it to the internet, and then yeah. That's what I was just thinking. So if you buy the headset, a PSVR headset, does it plug into a Now? Because surely it won't plug into your computer, because you need the box and the funny socket. So I assume you have to have a PS4 to start with, and then I think you just go on the PSN store.
So you would rather buy the games outright than...
Yeah, I can't see why I'd be interested in streaming it, because internet is a dodgy thing, and I think people right now are realizing how very thin and tenuous the internet connection can be when everybody on Earth really, really wants to use it at the same time.
Well, I will add to this just to kind of get your thoughts going too. What works nicely with PSNow is that you can download the PlayStation 4 games. And so you can also download the PSVR games that are on PSNow, so you don't have to worry about streaming them. They are downloaded to your system.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point, is that the only benefit I can think of for it would be that if the games are already there, so at least you don't have that internet lag. But I doubt it takes me a great length of time, maybe 12 to 40 hours to download some games, because my internet is terrible, awful over here in the UK. And it's worth saying that I think most people would probably say my internet is below averagely good. So I think even if it comes to, I'm gonna pay a subscription for like 12, how much is it? It's like 12, I think they did, like you say, they had a sale recently, because I used to know it.
Yeah, it was $45 for a year, so that knocks it down to, normally it's $60, right? So it's the price of one AAA game, and that balances down to about $5 a month. They took $1 off, basically made it about $4 a month for a year.
Yeah, that does. I guess it's in value for money, it's a really good shout. But I can't imagine anyone who's gone out of their way to buy a PS4 and then get a VR headset, then they buy the controllers, wouldn't want to just download the game and own it, because they're not that expensive. Because VR's, and I'm purely thinking about it in terms of money, and VR games are arguably the cheapest that you can get, which seems weird, but most of them, 90% of VR games, are cheaper than you might think they'd be, other than the big AAA ones, which are like the price of everything else. So really, they're not any worse. So I don't know if I would I just can't imagine buying a PSNow and then getting a subscription. And I'm assuming, do you need a PSN? Because if you want to play a game online, you have to get a subscription for PlayStation on PSN as well. Or you just don't buy the extra box and you download it outright for an extra few quid. It's really interesting, that, because it all comes down to how much money the customer has. If they only have a really good internet connection, they haven't got much money, and they've got a PS4 kicking around, and they just see a headset in a shop, and you go, I'm just going to buy that for 100 quid second hand, and I'll plug it in and get a Now and just a subscription. Then you're sailing, because you've saved yourself 400 quid on buying a console. But if you've already got a console and a headset, and you've downloaded some games to your console, I can't see that being a great incentive to switch. So if you're coming into it new, quite appealing. If you've already got the stuff, I can't see why you'd want to swap out and start using a different service. Another service which, when it would eventually shut down, would take all your games with them, because that's what we all fear in the long run, I think, is the more things we subscribe to and the more things we spread out. So what if PlayStation Now goes bust in a few years or something? Like, it's a funny little thing. I've kept my eye on it, but I've never particularly thought it would survive this long, if I'm honest. I'm surprised it's doing as well as it is.
Well, that's actually what fascinates me the most about it, is that it seems to be on the upward trend, because I think Game Pass has opened that door, and Sony quickly saw... I feel like they have to have had some sort of numbers behind the scenes that they've seen of Microsoft's.
Yeah.
Where they went, well, let's drop the price. Then let's not just drop the price. Let's add current games to it. And so while I'm still waiting and I still really want a PSVR game as part of my PS Plus subscription every month, because I feel like it's time to add that in as a free game since they took away our Vita games. I would love a free PSVR game every month. You do make the argument that most VR games are fairly priced to the point where they're not an inconvenience to purchase. But I also know
again,
that...
I think that's why... Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I do think that's why they don't give them away in the PSN. I think that's because a lot of the games are so cheap. They're like, oh, we can't really just give this away for free. It's only £1. We're kind of taking the mick out of the people who pay for the subscription if we just give them £1 worth of game for VR.
Yeah,
we can't give them Borderlands 2 because it's £50, and they're like, so I think that's why we don't see PSVR games turning up there. I don't know why Moss has never been, because that's a fairly middle ground game. I'm amazed that that's never been thrown out onto the PSN for free for subscribers.
And I wonder too, and this is something that, right, this is a whole other conversation, but I do wonder, and we've talked about this on this podcast before too, if it's something where, I mean, you look at this month with City Skylines and Farming Simulator, how much vitriol was thrown at Sony for how dare they include these games, these 2 games. Where's my AAA game? I can only imagine if they said this month we're going to give you 2 games and a PSVR game, people would go, well, are you kidding me? Why don't you just give me a third PlayStation 4 game? Why do I need a PSVR game? I don't even own a PSVR. But because Sony believes in VR as the future, I don't understand why they don't do more with it at the same time. Because they said years ago that PSVR, when it first came out in 2017, that Shuhei Yoshida said, we see this as our PlayStation 1 and that we're in this for the long run. So there's
about
this conflict there between what they say and what they've been doing.
I agree. I think that... Oh, sorry. One
second. Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. For a second, it went all garbled, but you're back. It's fine. I don't mean to jump in. But I think that you've got a point in that most people who go onto PSN and they get their subscription and they get it for the year and then they go, oh, why don't they just give me an extra PS4 game and a VR game? But I'm partly thinking that, again, they might be waiting for VR 2. I think when they get to the point when they release another headset, we'll probably see more of that because they'll be more inclined to go, well, a headset is only 99 quid or dollars, wherever you are on our lovely planet.
Yes.
But it's only 99 quid now because we're bringing out the new headset, and that's a baseline 299 or 399. Let's be in a wishful thinking mode and say it'll be 299 because that seems nice, and I'm hoping it will be about there when they do a PSVR 2. But then the other one can drop in price and they can go, right, you've got no excuse now. It's only 100 quid. Let's put in some VR games into the PSN sort of free giveaway. They might even, in one day, they might do a PSVR only subscription where there'll be enough games to sort of split the market in two, and they can sort of keep... Because I think a big problem is keeping the ball rolling for PSVR users. Like it's up to us to kind of go to the store every day. There's no like, oh, you turn on your PlayStation and it comes up with a load of adverts for PlayStation VR stuff and plays a little video. But it does that for everything else. If you want to use the store, it's like navigating a goddamn labyrinth built by Orthestus. It's like, I would like to find Wipeout VR. Oh, we've got Wipeout, the non-VR version. Oh, okay. Where's the VR one? Yes. An hour of searching later. Oh, it's built in. Oh, let me just scroll down. Oh, yeah, in a tiny bullet point, it says, contains the VR add-on. Add-on. What a weird word to use. Let me go and Google for another 2 hours if that's the whole game or just a pinned-on extra. And by that point, you've lost interest because you spent 4 hours finding out if what you're looking at in the store is even what you searched for because the names aren't correct. So really, they need to do something where we log in and it goes, you've got a PSVR on your headset. You want this version of the store immediately. Let me take you there because it's plugged in. I can see that. They should do something like that where if you've got a VR headset, the PlayStation should know, and it should bring you to different parts of the store first to keep VR players engaged with the content that they're releasing all the time, and they could maybe then go as far as to actually like give out their own subscription service for it. They could arguably charge slightly less, which means that people might be inclined to swap over. You'd be like, oh, I'm paying all this money for my yearly subscription and get 3 PS4 games, but if I get a VR headset, which is now 100 quid because they brought out a new one, I can get the cheaper subscription service for the year and get 4 VR games. They're always a bit naff, but there's always something good. They have a lot of room to play with that, but
they do.
I don't know what they're going. It is a really interesting time because we are like the PS1 generation, which is watching. They're just throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks, and some of it is really sticky, but still really bad. Like it's like the cat simulator, whatever it is, that kitten thing where you actually are supposed to get your on PSVR. Sorry, but there's like that. What is that? What's that even doing on PS4? Like you get the instructions when you turn that on is you get a cat toy and you duct tape it to your controller so that you can stroke the cat and the controller then becomes a sort of sensitive, Joy-Con for your toy cat. And it's like that shouldn't even be on the PSVR store. It just shouldn't. It's lowering the quality of what we, when we go searching, have to find. And that's their mistake, personally. It's all publicity, I think. They're handling it badly.
A lot of things for them to figure out, I think, with next gen. And I think that's why we're so ready for next gen, because the thing we have to remember is we have this way better than we did with the PS3 era and how terrible that interface was. I think a lot of people forget that.
God, yes.
But I do agree there's still a lot of things to be done. So, yes. So we'll have to figure it out and see what happens. But so to kind of just wrap up this kind of conversational topic, you don't think PSNow is the right place to put the PSVR games at this moment?
I don't think it is. No, okay. I think later. I think later it will make more use, but not yet.
Yeah, and I think I like actually the idea that if we could get them during PSPLUS as a free game once maybe a second headset comes out.
Yeah, then that's
when maybe you move it on to, okay, well, if you don't have PS Plus, we'll also put these games on PSNow. Sure, there'll be some overlap perhaps with people, but for the most part, then you can either subscribe to one service or the other and still get free PSVR games, right? To download and play.
Yeah, I think that would be the best way to do it, because you are just drawing people in. At the moment, it's just such a slog even to find them. Putting a VR game in someone's hand and saying, here it is for free, is their best option for getting people to play it. There's no ifs or buts about it, really. I agree.
Yep. So let's tackle the next little piece of conversation that I wanted to have, because we're on this VR topic. You and I both tested it out very briefly, but there was an Iron Man VR demo just released today, I believe, on the PlayStation Store.
Yes. I had a quick go.
And so you and I both had a quick go. What are your initial thoughts?
I loved it far more than I thought I would. But for listeners who have played Richie's Plank Experience, which I think arguably has some of the best flying mechanics in VR. I mean, that and Rec Room. Rec Room has a great thing where you point your hand and you fly that direction, which worked. And in Richie's Plank Experience, you physically have a rocket in each hand, and depending on how you tilt your hand, changes how you fly because of physics. In Iron Man, there's a couple of I don't want to say button prompts, but there's action prompts. So you put your hands by your side, you float. You sort of punch forwards and you fly forwards in a sort of Superman pose, and you get some oomph and it breaks things apart. And I like the way they've done it, but maybe it's just me because I'm a stickler for physics engines. I just think the flight could feel a little bit better, but that's mainly user interface. The fact that they've done this, that it looks really nice, it seems like a full-fledged experience, is really more than enough. I can't really ask for any more. But I would be pleased to see number 2 in a year or two's time when they release. If this does well and draws lots of people in, I'd love to see them say, yeah, totally, PSVR 2, Iron Man VR 2 is coming out with it, and it's just amazing now. We've seen what other games have done since. We've seen that flying is done better in this game and fighting is done better here. But for a first attempt, it's slick and it works, and that's all that VR has to do to draw you in. It has to be immersive.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I've not played any other flying games, and so in regards to where my hands are the rockets, but like Richie's planking experience. But I will say, I think that the second iteration of this is going to be even more incredible. But I have to say, I was really impressed with how intuitive it was.
Yes.
I felt like Iron Man with the way he points his hands back. When you were shooting the targets, I was adjusting with one hand flying while I was shooting with the other, and I never felt out of place. I never felt like, because there's a lot of games where, in VR especially, where it doesn't feel as intuitive as it should be. I'm shooting or I'm trying to move and shoot, and it's a bungled mess for me. And for them to do this where you're flying and doing this and have control, and I didn't notice any motion sickness because I don't play VR nearly as much as perhaps you. I didn't notice any motion sickness or anything that felt off or different. The only thing that I cannot wait for is a wireless headset, because I really wanted to be able to spin around and fire at those targets. And I knew that the cord pulled me out of the immersion of the game, because I knew that the cord was hanging at my side, and then I would just twist myself in the cord and yank my VR unit all over the place and possibly my PS4. But I really wanted to be able to just fly in 360 degrees without having to worry about a cord.
Oh, see, I've always been on the side of keep the cable in, because it keeps the price down dramatically and makes the game just easier to design for. I hope the PSVR 2, just on the record, keeps the cable, because I'm really keen on, like, just make the cable longer, more robust, and maybe start thinking about adding, like, extras, like, here's a cable holder, and you can attach it to the ceiling, and it's a Sony-made solid steel. I mean, Sony make TVs and TV stands and TV holders for the wall. I am stunned they haven't done, like, a screw-in wall fitting to hold the cable above your head. Because they did that on the original Vive, and that would get around, like, spinning and 360 and keep the price way down in terms of having to do all this wireless communication. But I do agree with you on the whole with Iron Man VR, that it's intuitive and easy to play, and it does work, which is what I think my point was. I think it feels fluid and it works, and I really do appreciate that. I think there are some, it's just because maybe I'm like, this isn't how it works in real life, and part of me is like, I just can't quite let go of the fact that this just isn't quite how it works. But at the same time, it is really good. It will get people's interest. I think anyone that likes Marvel is going to see this, and they're going to want to play it. They're going to go, I might go and buy a VR headset for this, or at least go around someone's house. I mean, they've done a bundle with it, so you can tell that Sony think this is going to sell headsets instead of just units. Like, real headsets are going to be sold just to play this game.
That's what I was going to bring up next.
It better be good, yeah. It better be good.
Do you think this will be a PSVR system seller?
I think it will, but I think it will because it's got the word Marvel on it. I
agree.
Don't think it's going to, because this is kind of my point earlier. Maybe I wasn't eloquent enough, but if you think about, like, if you played Windlands, you must have the swinging game.
I think I messed around with it, yes.
Yeah, see, that is, like, to me, I'm like, that is Spider-Man. That's just a Spider-Man game that they've, really, that is as close to Spider-Man as you're ever going to get. Just reskin this and set it somewhere and tell me I'm Spider-Man and I'm done. Like, that's as close to real life as you are throwing a cable out your hand, it attaches, you swing, gravity is right, perfect. In Iron Man, I feel like there's just been a bit of stretching to make it feel like you're Iron Man. But yeah, it's like the HUD. I wasn't a massive fan of the, like, HUD that's, like, wrapped around my head. I kind of, because that's
yes.
Again, this is where it falls down, because I'm not a huge fan of new Marvel. I quite like, my comics, like the actual comics themselves. So I'm like, the idea of having this sort of holographic display, and I'm, like, looking through a glass. What, the front of the Iron Man face is glass now? And I'm like, some of this, I'm just like, it doesn't twig with me. But it will sell headsets, and I think it's pretty enough and well made enough that there's no reason people shouldn't buy it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a game that I will probably play through, and I hope the entire experience. Again, I only played about 5-10 minutes of the demo. I really hope the entire experience is, and they've said they have a robust experience. So I'm hoping that it is what it seems to be so far, because it is, I think, one of those ones that for your general introduction to PSVR and your PSVR user who doesn't go out and find games like Windlands or find games like the Richie's planking experience, that this will be a great introduction for them, and they'll be like, I feel like Iron Man. And so I think this has a potential that if
yeah.
Sony markets it right to really, really sell and really appeal to people in a mainstream way, where I hope this does actually sell headsets. Now, if they were smart, what I'd also do with Sony is I'd redesign the headset a little bit. I don't know if they're going to do that, probably not, to make it maybe the color scheme of an Iron Man VR, so that people can have kind of like we have our custom PlayStations. You know, they have their Last of Us Part 2 PlayStation. They have their Star Wars PlayStation, that they can start to customize some of the headsets. So they're going to be like, I bought the Iron Man VR bundle. Look how amazing this helmet is.
Why that hasn't happened. Yeah, I'm so on board with that. I thought day one we were going to see that. Like, they do it with the controllers, like you say, they do it with the actual console itself. Why aren't there VR headsets which are like a slightly different shape, or have like a No Man's Sky? Because like the No Man's Sky helmet is a VR helmet. It's like a thing that goes over your face and then a band. I'm like, why isn't that a thing? Why haven't they done that? Like they'd have sold so many more headsets if it glowed and had pretty lights on it. And that's just, it sounds ridiculous, but it's just true. I'd buy one.
And I think really it comes down to the fact that there hasn't been a game with the market mass appeal that we've seen yet. And I think this is where Marvel has an opportunity to smash that.
Yes.
Sure, you've got stuff like Tetris, you've got stuff like Moss that are highly regarded. Blood and Truth is highly regarded, but in terms of a mainstream, right? The only thing I've seen buzz around, and actually, I think it came out of nowhere, obviously, was Beat Saber, but I was going to say that Walking Dead Saints and Sinners also seems to have a huge cult following right now, where that seems to be something very, very... that could have taken advantage of that headset. Yeah, could have taken advantage of like a Walking Dead headset. But I don't think anybody knew that Saints and Sinners was going to be that good either. Whereas Marvel, I think we know it's going to be good. So we'll see.
Yeah, plus, the fact that it has Marvel's name on it will just bring a lot of people in. Same way that Saints and Sinners had the same sort of brand appeal. It is surprising though, because from a gamer's point of view, I would say, like, what about Skyrim and No Man's Sky and Borderlands? Like, surely they're way bigger in terms of, you'd think, people who would go, I want to play that, like, now. But yeah, I have to admit, like, I didn't get Borderlands 2 until last week. I got Skyrim immediately because I wanted it, but people who don't go into the sort of circles of playing games don't know what Skyrim is. If you ask your mum or you go and ask like your best mate, there's a 50-50. They might not play games and they might never have heard of it. But Marvel, Iron Man, you go up to someone and say, you can play an Iron Man game, it's in VR. They go, yeah, let me come around and play it. Because it's a thing. It's in the public consciousness. You don't even need to be told what that game is. And for that, they're very lucky. They've hit a very nice little market there that I think will sell.
Yes. And the last thing I'll add to this before we move on is that with your Skyrim and your Doom and your, like you said, not only is there not the mass market appeal, but there's also the fact that I have all those games on my PlayStation in a normal mode, and I don't necessarily feel the need. Some people, if you're Skyrim enthusiast or you love Skyrim, absolutely. But for your average gamer who may have played Skyrim years ago, they're probably going to look at it and go, well, I don't really need to play that in VR. I've already experienced that. Whereas Iron Man VR being exclusive to VR, I think, in a way that even the Batman VR couldn't pull off a couple of years ago, has an appeal that's going to push units and cause people to come out and buy it. So we'll see what happens. It'll be very interesting. I'm excited about what July will bring for that. All right, last topic I just wanted to bring up here that we can talk about briefly is you, actually. You are on YouTube. You have your own YouTube channel. You have over 1,000 subscribers. And you've made VR videos pretty regularly, but you also decided to dive into game development recently. And so I wanted to talk about what made you decide to take that leap and jump into that kind of world because a lot of people fantasize, I think, about it. I've actually started writing a script for a game, but I would never dive into game development.
Oh, because what language are you writing in?
The only one I know, English.
When you said code, I thought, maybe he's doing a little C++ thing. That'd be fun.
No. I've written a script. I'm working on a narrative script, but
it'll
never see the light of day because I don't want to dive into the coding and I don't want to dive into the development part of it. But what made you decide to dive into that?
Personally, I think a lot of people have always had this sort of fascination with being creative. I've played Dungeons and Dragons for a great number of years, which I think taught me. This is, to lead on to my main point, but that taught me a lot about how to control sort of gameplay and how story can influence. Like it's an interactive thing with instant feedback when you play sort of Dungeons and Dragons. You see on their face if what you've said or done in the game is good or not. And after a certain amount of feedback, you start thinking, well, there's these games that I love, like Metal Gear and Near, the first Near, and I suppose Near Automata, but I wasn't a huge fan. But Portal and Journey, and later I came across a game called Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs, which is developed by Frictional Games at the time. And there was a guy who worked on it and did the he was the game designer. He was called Peter Howell. And he does a huge amount of psychology research, which is something I took at college. I did I don't know what you call it in America, but I did an A level, which I think is like the equivalent of doing something in like early uni, because we don't have high school. We go secondary school, college, uni. So I'm not quite sure where it matches up over there, but I did an A level in psychology, and I really appreciated when I came across Amnesia: Machine for Pigs that it was so well designed. And I took it onto my computer, and I got I think I got a editor to take it apart and have a look at how it was made, and I just got really interested in the actual mechanics. And I went, wow, this is just a load of corridors, and there's like, it's kind of spoilers, but there's like 3 bad guys in the whole game. Like the chances of dying is like 1 in a million. And yet I felt so scared the entire time. I was on the edge of my seat. But when I peeled it apart and went, there wasn't even a threat there. I'm like, this is clever. This is art. This is a new way of storytelling that I've appreciated as a customer. Like playing Journey or Portal, I've always seen and felt like we know when we play something we like. And I wanted to somehow bring the dungeon mastering and my creative projects and music and things all together. And this guy, Peter Howell, basically just went, I started reading some papers of his. I went to Portsmouth University for an open day a few years ago, because I'm 28, I'm 29 in a few months, I'll say that now. So I did wait a good like 10 years longer than most people. I went off and sort of had a life, as it were, before I sort of sat down and went, this is what I want to do, and discovered that, to my joy, Peter Howell worked there. And I was like, oh, that's such a joy. I'm really glad that he's still here, because I thought that was where they developed the game from, was at this university. And he still taught there, and I met him, and I had a sit-down chat with basically, my dream game developer, the guy who made this game that I loved so much. And he went, why don't you come and do that here, and we can do it together? And I thought, that's a fantastic opportunity to go to a university and really study something that arguably I truly have a passion for. And obviously most people know me off the YouTube, which I did long before I decided I was going to go to uni. I'd started doing the YouTube. So I already had this passion for, I say game design, but I feel like that's really facetious to say that, because I hadn't done any game design. So I thought I had an appreciation of what made a game good and what made something appealing and how a story should go. And I think that's something that really boiled down to me wanting to sort of help create more. Games can be better. Like Portal and Journey are arguably better than COD, in my opinion. And I think we need more games like that.
That's a widespread opinion, I'd like to think.
Yeah, it is. No, I know. Not many people would agree with me, but I think that we still need Destiny games and we still need CODs. Like, there's nothing bad about them. I really liked, there was a COD I played where everyone's going to be so annoyed that I don't even know what the name is, but I played a COD where you were Russian and you walk down a corridor and you find out you've all been brainwashed. And I saw that cutscene, someone playing it, and they were just walking down this corridor, numbers start coming out the ground, and I went, this is really cool. And I watched for like 10 minutes, and then suddenly it comes out the cutscene, he grabs a gun and the HUD appears, and I went, whoa, this is COD. Like, there are some real gems of art in these things, but I feel like in general, games are mistreated. Like you were saying earlier, like EA and things like Anthem, they're more about business than they are about craft. And I think that's something that personally I felt I wanted to get involved with. So that's always appealed to me as a person. I wanted to do more games as art and prove that is a thing that can be, because I think a lot of people would go, games are not art, and I think that's important.
Yes, I would agree. They are certainly art. So that's awesome. I mean, that's incredible to be able to have that opportunity to meet and be able to kind of have a discussion with somebody that you recognize has had such an impact on you in your gaming experience, right? And so I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, it's a very rare thing. Not that many people get that experience, so I'm very grateful for it. And arguably, they say never meet your heroes, and he was genuinely the nicest guy ever. We sat down in the uni cafe. We talked for like an hour and a bit, and I just went, "This is you're a genius. I love everything you've done." I went full fangirl, and he was really good about it, and I really do thank him for that if he ever hears this, because I wouldn't be at uni if it wasn't for that game. Amnesia is something I recommend everyone go play, because I think it's just genius. It's a horror game, so if you don't like horror, maybe give it a wide berth and watch somebody play it without commentary. But the atmosphere and the way it's designed, really, I love it. I think games are really cool, and people should do more with them.
I'd agree 100%. I do agree with everybody that they should go check out Amnesia. I know Matt would never play it because he is terrified of horror games, and so he would probably have to, just hear about it secondhand. But it is one of those experiences to certainly try out and experience, because it's a game it's kind of, I feel like Amnesia is in that hall of game fame that's unofficial, where everybody who takes gaming seriously has come across it at some point.
Yeah, it's a different sort of circle of gaming. Again, I think that's a real problem for, again, like VR. It's such a niche market that it's almost like, why isn't this taking off? And I always look at the companies and go, well, it's just not being handled well. There's no reason this product is good. This is a good product I have in my hand, so why don't more people know about it? And I think it's a fundamental issue that I think a lot of game companies, developers, writers, script developers, game devs all wrestle with every day, which is just, where is that balance?
Exactly. I'd agree 100% with that. Well, Adam, I appreciate you joining us today and chatting with us. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add or share. If you want to share maybe out your YouTube channel, and share out a couple pieces of information as well, we'd really appreciate that.
Oh, yes, please. Obviously, I am Dukane the Wizard on YouTube, but you can search and find me at the VR Sofa on Twitter, the VR Sofa on YouTube. I do lots of videos and things on sort of playing somewhat in character if I'm trying to do something like a long-form game like Skyrim, or I like to just sit and just sort of talk and do almost podcasty things. So if you're just curious about my life, which is very unlikely, but if you are, or you just want to hear how game development sort of hatches and any little gems that come out of it all, it's a really nice place, I think, to just chill and watch someone like me who's English and has a pleasant voice and isn't too annoying, I think. So maybe that's egotistical, but that's what most people seem to leave comments saying. So I'm like, you got to capitalize on it. I'm English.
Absolutely.
And I'm quite easygoing, so I think it's a nice place to chill. And one shout out, actually, there's a game called by Gauge Punk Games called Rolling Line. And everyone needs to go and tell them to bring it out on PSVR, because I've been waiting for ages. It's just a little game where basically you drive around on a train in a train set that you've built. But it's got a very low poly look. And I've spoken to the dev before, and they're like, we'd love to, but we just don't find time. And I'm like, it's been years. Put it on PSVR. Loads of people would love it. It's a great little thing. Please go and Google it and investigate it, and send them emails saying, bring this out on PSVR as well as Steam.
Yes, I would agree. I've remember you speaking about that and looking that up years ago, and
I'm still here. I'm still here waiting. It's gutting. I'm secretly a bit of a train nerd, and I want to drive a train in VR, and I can't. And it's like, just do it. Damn it.
If we can fly a plane on PSVR, there's no reason why we can't drive a train.
Exactly. Like it's true. Literally, one of my dissertations that I've just written has a game development document that I've been working on, which is driving a train and also racing them and trying to shoot out people with guns from the windows whilst you're moving. And I'm like, this could be a thing. Why aren't there more train games? More people need to make games in VR with trains in them for me.
Yes.
For me to enjoy.
Well, again, I appreciate you joining us again today. Guys, I will be back. You will not notice the difference, but I will come back on Saturday evening to read off some of the PS Blog PSN games for the following week, and see you soon. But I will take that on solo myself this week. But again, Adam, I appreciate you hanging out with me and chatting about the news, chatting about PSVR, chatting about Iron Man, and telling us a little bit about your journey into game dev. Hopefully, as you finish up your first or create your first game, we can have you on and talk all about how that journey is complete and how you.
Yes, that would be a joy. Yes,
and what you're. Yes, so we'll hope for that and continue to keep an eye on that. And guys, until next time, thanks for joining us and game on.
Take care, everybody. Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. I told you I would be back, and I am. This is The Drop, or what we like to call See You Soon. See you soon, as Matt would do. So we're going to go ahead and run through this. I'm going to read these for you. These are the games coming out the week of May 26th. And we'll give you the updated total for next week, how many games we've had now come out on the PSN this year. So first up, we've got Atomicrops, out PS4 digital, May 28th. Modern City Life got you down? Well, you've just inherited your late uncle's farm. Time to pack your bags and start fresh in the peaceful countryside. What could possibly go wrong? A nuclear apocalypse? That's what. Now you're in a hellscape wasteland defending the last surviving source of sustenance, your crops. And every mutant wants a piece. Sounds like Plants vs. Zombies without the zombies. Continuing the bug theme and the plant theme here, Bug Fables is out this week. Follow Vi, Kaboo, and Leaf as they uncover the secrets of the land of Bulgaria. Explore and combine your team's abilities to solve puzzles, defeat powerful enemies, and find ancient treasures. Short and sweet. Castle Pals is next. One night, Kylie and Owen stumble upon creepy Castle Pukapik, all right, and decide to uncover its secrets. Nothing could possibly go wrong, could it? Play as two different characters. Punch your way through enemies with Kylie and fly above your enemies while avoiding traps as Owen. All right, kind of like Streets of Rage meets some sort of bug thing. So we've got a theme going on here, I think, this week. And to continue it, go figure, Genetic Disaster is out May 29th, PS4, digital. Absurd guns, crazy characters, instant fun, and accidental friendly fire in this co-op action game. Upgrade your hero to build your own gameplay style and combine different ones to create the perfect team if you play with friends. Don't feel like cooperating? A special PvP arena is also available. The game's motto, cooperate, but not too much. That's weird. I don't know why you would put that in there like that. All right, we've got a PSVR game for my VR folks out there. We talked a lot about VR in this episode with Iron Man. Hotel R&R out digitally. Hotel R&R is the gonzo VR rockstar simulator that encourages bad behavior. They must be British because they spelled it with a U. Sell your soul to the devil, smash up hotels, and become infamous with a capital I. Pressure, I added the capital I part. It is capitalized though. Pressure from the hotel staff and your own limp wrists are against you. But with over 36 weapons and a world tour ahead of you, it's time to get creative. I'm not sure what I just read there. All right, so if you didn't enjoy Let's Dance 2020, maybe you'll enjoy Let's Sing 2020. It all begins with the first tone. Sing as a solo superstar. Perform with your crew and friends to rock every party. Let's Sing 2020 offers a great variety and has hits for everyone. Not to be outdone, we've got Little Miss Fortune. Little Miss Fortune is an interactive story focused on exploration and characters, both sweet and dark, where your choices have consequences. Led by her new friend, Mr. Voice, they venture into the woods, where mysteries are unraveled and a little bit of bad luck, unfolds. Cool. Many Faces is also out on PS4 digital this week. Make the Many-Face King pay for waking you from your beauty sleep. Many Faces is a multi-directional shooter inspired by arcade classics, combining single-screen action with randomized stages that will constantly keep you on your toes. Not sure why they called it a multi-directional shooter, but we'll continue on. All right, just a couple more to get through here. Wow. All right, that was the thunder. Minecraft Dungeons. Fight your way through an all-new action-adventure game inspired by classic dungeon crawlers and set in the Minecraft universe. The Hero Edition includes a hero cape, 2-player skins, and a chicken pet. That's right, a chicken pet. It also includes 2 DLC packs when they become available. Pong Quest, out May 29th as well on PS4. Pong Quest is a new take on the seminal arcade smash. Take control of a brave young paddle and traverse treacherous lands, each loosely based on various classic hits in this uniquely Pong-themed dungeon crawling RPG. Dress up your paddle and equip special balls with unique abilities to battle aggressive foes in Quest or online opponents. Interesting. Not to be outdone, of course, Rune Lord is out this week on PS4 digital. A portal has opened and dark magic is pouring through. Only you can close the gateway and defeat the evil ice golem. But you'll need to hurry. Time is short. Now, this next one's probably going to be my pick of the week from what we've read so far. It's Shantae and the Seven Sirens. You got another Shantae game coming out. Shantae is back in an all-new tropical adventure. In her 5th outing, the half-genie hero gains new fusion magic abilities to explore a vast sunken city, makes new half-genie friends, and battles the 7 sirens in her biggest, most thrilling quest yet. All right, Those Who Remain also comes out digitally this week on the PS4. As the lights go out, the embers of darkness are stoked in the sleepy town of Dormont. Confront uncomfortable horrors, keep your sanity in check, and survive the night in this story-driven, first-person psychological thriller. I wish Matt was here to read this one. Udawara Manuno, Prelude to the Fallen, PS4 and PS Vita. Please don't make me read the title again in the description. We'll find out. Discover the first chapter of a tale years in the making. Hakuulo, a man with no memories, must find his place in the strange new world and embrace the destiny that awaits him. All right. Wizard's Wand of Epicosity also is out this week. When the Wizard of Darkness awakened, it was up to one man to defeat him. When that man was accidentally killed by one idiot, Tobuscus, the responsibility of becoming an awesome wizard fell onto him by default. That wraps up. See you soon. So we got, about 15 games coming out this week. My pick would probably be, for most people, would probably be Minecraft Dungeons. I'm sure a lot are looking forward to that. Shantae and the Seven Sirens would probably be my pick because I've played a Shantae game before and they're not too shabby. They have to be good, right? They've gotten 5 games in so far. So that is See You Soon. We'll see you soon.